Hello, dear friends. It is Dr. Sarah. Today, I want to talk to you about integrative approaches to preventing and treating chronic Lyme disease. Now, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summertime, and when the summertime weather hits, the awareness of the little critters that can negatively impact our health is heightened. Some of the most concerning ones to many individuals are the tiny ticks that harbor many pathogens in their insides. These blood-sucking, spitting vectors can attach to our bodies and transmit some pretty scary microbes. These include Borrelia burgdorferi, which can lead to Lyme disease, and its various co-infections. So I want to help spare you the misery of having pests ruin your summer and your health. In this video blog, I'm going to provide an overview of Lyme disease. I'm going to discuss factors that are often missed as major contributors to chronic Lyme disease symptoms. And I want to highlight three of my most popular previously aired interviews on the essential oil revolution, where I had some of the top internationally recognized Lyme disease practitioners. So, we're going to cover why Lyme disease is so scary, how modern medicine is missing persistent Lyme symptoms, overlooked contributors to chronic Lyme disease, and then I will highlight some integrative approaches from our three experts on treating chronic Lyme disease. These include considering vagal tone and feeling safe, the connection of Lyme disease with autoimmunity and other chronic conditions, and then merging holistic naturopathic treatments with preventative strategies. As always, the additional references, the links to studies and resources will be available in the accompanying article to this video. So be sure to check that out if you want the links and to go ahead and listen into the experts. So let's get started. First, why is Lyme disease so scary? Well, Lyme disease is from the active infection of any several pathogenic members of the Borrelia burgdorferi species. It's reported as the most common vector-borne illness in the United States and Europe. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that approximately 476,000 people will contact Lyme disease every year, and that 10 to 20% of the population in the US and Europe are chronically impacted by this common vector-borne illness. It's changing, but many conventional doctors and individuals are not aware that Lyme disease and its co-infections could be a contributing factor to various underlying and ongoing illnesses and symptoms. And this is due to the impact of the infection on multiple organ systems. And this is evidenced by the stages of clinical manifestations. So there's the first phase, which many people are aware of, and that involves the flu-like symptoms and this localized rash. It's often referred to as erythema migraines. The second is the early disseminated phase, and it can present with more severe symptoms. It can have an effect on the heart, the blood vessels, and the nervous system. Unfortunately, many conventional healthcare providers only address the acute infection of Lyme disease, and they don't monitor for persistent symptoms or systemic effects after that. In fact, most physicians stop following their clients after they provide the standard of care treatment of antibiotics. There was a recent article in the Frontiers of Medicine. It analyzed 253 Lyme disease patients, and it found that only 1/3 of people with ongoing early stage Lyme disease symptoms return to their doctor. This is concerning because we want to catch things early on so they don't spread. Second, it found that less than 25%, 23% to be exact, of Lyme patients with early signs or symptoms tested positive under CDC guidelines. This highlights the prominent issue of accurate diagnosis and testing for Lyme disease. Finally, 21% or 1 in 5 people reported ongoing Lyme symptoms after 3 months. These are things such as joint and muscle pain and fatigue. And along with inadequate follow-up, patients are also not offered a holistic approach. If we only focus on killing the bug and not addressing the underlying lifestyle, biological, and socioeconomic factors, they could be having prolonged symptoms and negative reactions in the long run. And many people may not even know that it is from this little infectious tick. So, as mentioned, I have had the pleasure of interviewing several Lyme disease experts on the Essential Oil Revolution podcast. And We'll get to that a little later, but many of them shared with me several often missed aspects which can contribute to these persistent symptoms of Lyme disease. And these factors should be considered in anyone who has a history of Lyme infection and are still experiencing chronic symptoms. And by alleviating some of these additional strains on the physical body and immune system, a lot of times sufferers can enhance their resiliency and revive their inner terrain to heal at even deeper levels, and people can and do recover from chronic Lyme disease. So if we look at one of the first factors, I think it's getting more out there how there's a connection between mold and Lyme disease and how they interplay with each other. And it is a factor, it's one of the biotoxins that can lead to this chronic inflammatory response syndrome, the SIRS pattern that has all of these different symptoms connected to this exposure. I've seen clients get a tick bite, recover, and then get exposed to mold, and the resultant havoc on their body is intense. It's almost like they interplay with each other. So if the environment isn't addressed, the immune system can become chronically depleted, and it's often hard to heal from chronic Lyme disease. Another overlooked factor is toxic teeth. So many people don't realize that there's a link between the microbiome in our mouth and various disease processes. Poor oral health actually causes inflammation, and the pathogens that take over our mouth can actually invade us systemically. They can disseminate through our body. And this can weaken the immune system, and it can make it more challenging to recover from chronic Lyme, co-infections, or any issue actually. And there's also some controversy, but there is some evidence that spirochetes, which Borrelia is, and various other critters can hide in crevices in our teeth, and they go there to protect themselves from the surveillance of our immune system. And then these spirochetes can also spread systemically. And there was a case in the literature that I found of a molecular detection of Bartonella in the dental pulp of a homeless patient. Another aspect is actually addressing the parasites and co-infections. So Borrelia is often accompanied by friends. These include Babesia and Bartonella, which are probably the most recognized, but many have different treatments than Borrelia alone, and symptoms can continue if these guys aren't addressed as well. We also want to think about supporting detoxification, because toxins in our environment and stressors can compromise our immunity and make healing from anything chronic more of a challenge. Mold is an example, which is on top of Lyme disease, and that can make someone reach what they call their total toxic load, which is the accumulation of toxins versus the body's ability to actually excrete and mobilize them. We talked about in the past how essential oils are one way to support our detoxification pathways and support some aspects of mold at the same time. Had to get that in there. All right, and then there's another aspect of the neurological impact of Lyme disease. Medical News Today estimates that neurological Lyme disease, which is also called neuroborreliosis, occurs in up to 15% of people with Lyme disease. And in every 100 cases of Lyme disease, there's approximately 9 with facial palsy, 4 with neuropathy, and 2 with meningitis or encephalitis. One way to address the neurological impact of chronic Lyme, besides clearing the infectious cause, is addressing the nervous system or the vagal tone. This can help one heal from the chronic nervous system overstimulation that leads them to either shut down or prevents them from entering into the healing and rejuvenation state. There's also the right mindset. So many of the experts talk about the interconnection between the mind and the body, and this is becoming more accepted in mainstream. The effects of emotional stress on psychology and biology was made evidence that when we think about effects in our perceptions, affects our biochemistry. And then scientific research has long validated that what we believe, including if we can and will get better, actually has an effect on our health. This is demonstrated through the placebo effect. And these are just a few examples of the proof that one's mindset, whether it be that feeling that we're stressed or a belief that something is going to help heal us, can affect physical health and emotional balance. And then finally, building community of support. We know that relationships have a powerful impact on the risk for heart disease and other health conditions. We know that isolation is now a major predictor of mortality for heart disease and various disease processes. On the flip side, healthy relationships are linked to better emotional and physical health. Okay, so now let's talk about three experts I had on the essential oil revolution. And I will provide you with the links with the detailed show notes. So you can have some empowering information on how to handle Lyme disease in a more comprehensive way. These are the go-to experts, and they each offer a rich and beautiful tapestry of whole person, individualized mind, body, spirit care. And I really want you to enjoy these conversations. I think you will. I think we all deserve to be free of the pests that can rob us of our summer fun, our sanity, and our health. And I think you'll agree with me on that. So one of the first talks I had was on the polyvagal theory, essential oils, and hope in healing from chronic complex illnesses with Dr. Thomas Moorcroft. Now, he has extensive training in treating mysterious illness, and it has made him a sought-after global leader and presenter on the topics of tick-borne infections, mold illness, mast cell activation syndrome, and children with infection-induced autoimmune encephalitis or PANS or PANDAS. He has a unique way of blending natural approaches with conventional care, and he also holds reverence for the healing journey of his patients and honors this innate ability to heal. So when I first heard Dr. Moorcroft speak, I was determined to have him on the Essential Oil Revolution podcast. And I wanted him because he has such an inspiring message of hope and transformation. And a lot of times people who have suffered for a long time or have been dismissed because doctors couldn't find the cause feel hopeless. And during the show, Dr. Moorcroft and I really discussed why it's so important to have a mindset of hope in order to heal, why feeling safe is necessary for a positive shift to occur, and how to nurture a vagus nerve to revitalize health. Dr. Moorcroft also provides us with tips to consider when one has a tick-borne infection or other chronic diagnoses. We weave in how essential oils are vagal nerve modulators that support the vagus nerve's influence on our physiology, our psychology, and our biochemistry. And it's through various mechanisms that these plant secondary metabolites actually enhance our brain health, mood, and calm our reactive nervous system down so that can help us heal. They can also help us feel safe, which allows for more rational responses to life and to relationships, which are also important aspects of healing from chronic Lyme. So it really complements this polyvagal theory that Dr. Moorcroft is an expert in, and also helps with modulating our ability to heal, grow, and release trauma, which are important aspects of healing from any chronic disease. Dr. Moorcroft, aka Dr. Tom, he was so generous with his time. It was really an honor to have him on the Essential Oil Revolution. He really dives into this mind, body, spirit connection in such depth, and how to take tiny steps so that your nervous system can get used to this change that it needs to create lasting healing. So I really hope that you take the time to listen to that. Even if you're not suffering from chronic Lyme, any chronic illness, I think that will be helpful for you. I also had Dr. Jaquel Patterson on. She talked about autoimmunity, Lyme disease, and essential oils. She is a trailblazing pioneer and passionate physician. She has firsthand experience of actually being diagnosed with both autoimmunity and Lyme disease, and she successfully treated them both with for herself and for her patients using naturopathic and functional medicine. It has been her mission since her resolution to offer this integrative care and make it accessible to everyone. She has a gentle, authentic, and fierce drive and determination, and she displays it in her multiple roles as a doctor, business coach, and entrepreneur. I was honored to have her on the show. She really has a long list of accomplishments. I mean, it's overwhelming. And I was fortunate to share the same alma mater of the University Bridgeport College of Naturopathic Medicine with her. It's jam-packed with information on autoimmunity and Lyme disease and the connection, how hormones affect both, and how essential oils can fit into these conditions and impact they can have. So I really hope that you listen to that full episode as well. She is an internationally recognized speaker for various topics and has such detailed information. You won't want to miss that. And then finally, I had Dr. Alex Chesney on, and she talked about an integrative approach to treatment and prevention of Lyme and tick-borne disease. She is an internationally esteemed naturopathic physician, acupuncturist, author, researcher, lecturer, educator, patient advocate, and specialist in treating Lyme and tick-borne diseases. And during the show, Dr. Chesney and I discussed how to approach and holistically address Lyme disease and tick-borne illness. We reviewed how to prevent a tick bite from having this little guy make you your next blood meal. We don't want that. And how to use essential oils. I know we already touched upon the complex and chronicity of Lyme disease, and especially in the previous two interviews, but this one is really about prevention and kind of dispelling myths about Lyme disease that have been passed along in conventional care, including diagnosis, treatments, how long a tick has to be on you in order to be infectious, some natural remedies using essential oils, just a ton of different things. And she is actually a leader in prevention. She actually literally wrote the book on it, and she has a course on preventing Lyme and tick-borne diseases. And I'll put those links in the show notes so you get that. She also has a tick preparedness kit, and we go over what's in that kit and why people should consider having that on hand. I actually, in the show notes, list each of the different areas that she goes through and why pharmaceuticals aren't enough to treat a tick, how there's different forms of Lyme disease, and how you need to have a comprehensive approach to get all at the different forms, and most antibiotics can't do that alone. And she just goes over so many great preventative strategies for people. And I think we know prevention is probably the best way to handle the tick issue, because if you never get it, you never have to deal with it. And that saves a bunch of time. It's worth 1,000 pounds of cure. So make sure that you click on that link in the episode. I actually re-listened to it myself because there was so much information. And I think it'll be helpful for a lot of people worried about Lyme disease or having friends or family members, or you're suffering yourself. All of these are really good to listen to. So if we summarize, chronic Lyme disease is an often overlooked and underappreciated contributor to many unexplained lingering symptoms and disease processes. So you want to have an understanding of this comprehensive approach and different factors of why someone may still be suffering with symptoms long after a tick bite. And these things include evaluating for things like mold and toxin exposure, co-infections, neurological and vagal tone, mindset, social support, and even your teeth. And there are integrative healthcare providers in Lyme disease who offer comprehensive integrative care for chronic Lyme disease. We talked about ones that focus on vagal tone and safety, the connection between autoimmunity and chronic conditions, and prevention and holistic treatment. These practitioners offer hope and healing to many patients who have suffered for way too long. And I have seen that in my practice. So I hope that this information is helpful for you. Please do share it with everyone who needs to hear it, which I think is everyone, because I think this is important that many people are suffering and may not even know why. I also want to bring your attention that I have a lot of other resources that are available in the resource section. So make sure you check that out in the video as well as on the accompanying article website. And I did just recently update my CEU course, which is a 2-hour course for practitioners that does offer CEU accreditation, and that link will be provided as well. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you take gentle care. Enjoy your summer without the pests and the worry. And also, please don't get obsessed. Just be mindful, take some smart strategies, and enjoy your summer